If I could ask our Canadian friends to do anything, would be...
I can't believe it. They admitted it. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Susan Holt, Premier of New Brunswick, admitting that going for a walk in the woods, even though she's banned it, has nothing to do with the fire ban. I don't know if she meant to give us an honest answer or not, but it's starting to paint a picture of her reasoning makes absolutely no sense. We'll take a look at the real reason why fires are getting created. We've got some new polling data here. More on the Trump tariffs, the auto sector. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off with some Abacus polling data. This one here, top issues facing Canadians, 62% for the cost of living. Second is Donald Trump and his administration, 44%. That's not going away anytime soon. The economy is number 3, healthcare number 4. And what's last? Indigenous reconciliation. Followed up with Chinese election interference and the threat posed by China and Russia. Scrolling down here, this is quite shocking. People's impression of Mark Carney back from the election, so we're going right about here, has actually gone up a little bit. 46 versus 48%. Now we'll have to see here after people realize that Mark Carney didn't get a deal. This is going to take some time to get to the general masses, but Mark Carney's said a lot of stuff. He hasn't done anything and people haven't really realized that yet, but that marketing works on people. People are busy and they're not paying attention. They're like, oh yeah, he must be doing something. He keeps saying it on X or on Instagram or whatever. Pierre Poilievre's impression here has actually gone up a little bit here in the last about 2 weeks. People's impression of Donald Trump remains highly negative. No shocker there. This graph here is interesting. So this red line rising is re-elect the Liberals. And you can see when Justin Trudeau stepped down right here, and now it's holding at 34%, where time for change is sitting at 39%. So we have more people wanting a change in Canada, yet we still have these numbers that we're getting where the Liberals are still leading by about 3% in the polls right now. That's what we're seeing here, 43 versus 40%. Mark Carney doesn't have a lot of room to play with here. He hasn't got a deal. This is just going to look perpetually worse as the economy starts to crumble and fall apart. Jobs are getting lost. Businesses moving to America. It's only a matter of time before his new shiny sheen wears off and this number starts crashing down. Moving ahead here, we've got this one. So Susan Holt, once again, speaking on this whole hiking ban in New Brunswick, and she says the quiet part out loud.
There are people who say that they're losing their right to walk in the woods because of these restrictions, and it almost seems like the latest cultural obsession. And I was wondering what you have to say to people who have all this universal anger all of a sudden toward this this request from the government to keep out of the woods.
She was asked why people can't go in the woods. Jumping ahead,
me going for a walk in the woods is going to cause a fire. I can understand why people think that that's ridiculous. But the reality is it's not that you might cause a fire. It's that if you're out there walking in the woods and you break your leg, we're not going to come and get you, because we have emergency responders that are out focused on a fire that is threatening the lives of New Brunswickers. And if you take your boat out fishing in a pond in Crown Land and you capsize, we're not going to be able to come and help you out, because our first responders are focused on an immediate and serious threat to our province. And so it's the possibility of diverting emergency resources away from where they are really needed.
So no point in doing anything, enjoying anything, because the possibility that the boat capsizes and there's no one to come save you, well, that's our decision to make, not yours. You don't get to make that decision. Canadians can decide, even if they come out and say, you know what, if you go out fishing, we don't have anyone on standby to come save you. Canadians can then decide. You go hiking, break your leg, and you have to crawl your way back. That's up to us to decide that. Who do they think they are that they get to call the shots like this? Especially if you look into the research with going into forests and all the different things you get from just the air in the forest. I'm not going to start quoting different benefits to the body and all that. YouTube doesn't like medical claims on here, but if you're interested, look it up. What a forest, just walking through a forest, the air that's in there, all the microbes and the bacteria that gets into your body, it's incredibly beneficial to the human body. It's almost like we're made to do that. My rights are not subject to the availability of a government agent. This is the best recruitment campaign for the CPC I've ever seen. This whole thing is quite ridiculous because there's not that many search and rescue calls. Where I'm out here on Vancouver Island, there's like a couple a year, and we have hikers all the time in the woods. It's not a good excuse. We're going to have nobody go into the woods and ruin people's mental health because there might be 2 calls that happen during all these fires. Well, then people can hunker down and wait an extra day or 2 till help comes, or they can just simply tell us you can't get any help for the next 2 months. It's up to you if you want to decide to take that risk. Oh my God, this can't be real. Does she think we're that stupid? This guy saying who capsizes their boat on a pond. I mean, it's one thing if it's in the ocean, but yeah, like in a pond, come on. Are these people serious? Literally can't watch her talk or take her seriously. She reminds me of a female version of the Joker. I have a feeling that many Canadians are okay on taking that risk. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is this post here from Dominic LeBlanc. It says, I commend New Brunswick's government and emergency personnel and those from neighboring jurisdictions in their efforts in fighting wildfires in our province. Oh, really? You commend them? Do you commend them for banning people from going in the forest? Was this a directive that came from up top, or did she decide on doing this herself? Game recognizes game. Authoritarianism recognizes authoritarianism. Moving ahead, we've got this one as well. According to the data that Table Salt has obtained, arson was the cause of 1,144 fires in Nova Scotia over the last 15 years. It is what is the leading cause of forest fires by far. And that's what we're seeing with this one down here. That's arson and everything else. Spontaneous, power lines, unknown, slashing and clearing land, debris fire, campfires, grass terrain. So really, the ones they're banning are hiking, which doesn't exist because there's never been a fire started by someone hiking. ATVs, which is hardly ever. I mean, they can cause sparks. It doesn't happen all that often, as you can see here. Surprisingly enough, lightning, I guess it's over in Nova Scotia, not a lot of lightning over there, but across Canada, lightning is the primary cause of fire aside from arson. We've got exhaust, train, a bunch of things that cause hardly any fires. And yeah, arson is number one. Just bring in some rules of arson that are so strict and that's it. Imagine if they put a fine of $25,000 for a convicted arsonist with 20-year jail time. Yeah, then you wouldn't have people lighting these fires. They would be in jail. After one fire, toss them in jail. Moving ahead, we've got Pierre Poilievre reposting this one from the Toronto Sun. Carney's Liberals hiding immigration data as questions mount. And Pierre saying, why are Carney Liberals covering up immigration numbers? Because the numbers they created are worsening and they don't want you to know it. Liberals will never clean up their own mess. This is textbook liberal. Just blame everything on someone else. They're currently trying to blame everything on Donald Trump right now because the record is so bad they need a scapegoat somewhere, and that's the only one they got. So what's next? They're going to blame immigration on Donald Trump? Orange Man bad caused all these people to flee from America into Canada, and that's why the numbers are so high. Liberals are in the business of disaster creation. So yeah, jumping towards the end here, you're seeing India becoming number one. Moving ahead, we've got this one, tariff impact on the auto sector. Spoiler, it's not good.
A new report shows Michigan's governor has directly raised the alarm with President Donald Trump after the damage his tariffs will do to the auto sector in America's car capital. For more on this, we're joined now by CTV's Ricardo Veneza tonight. Ricardo.
Yeah, Stephanie, this is reporting published by the Associated Press, which details some of the plea made in that private meeting and the warning of severe damage to the sector in Michigan. The president says that he wants to save. Now, the AP reports the Tuesday meeting saw Gretchen Whitmer warn Trump the new import taxes rolled out in the last several months could lead to more factory floor job losses, price hikes, and lower profits. Now, the big three have already reported tariff-induced losses this year, with Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors all reporting that those losses are into the billions of dollars. America's major car companies, meantime, have also voiced concern to the Trump administration that its new tariff deals for European and Japanese automakers puts them at a disadvantage because of the higher tariffs being levied on Canada and Mexico. The White House contends the deal gives U.S. car makers new market access to sell vehicles, and the AP reports Trump made no commitments to Whitmer. Auto Forecast Solutions analyst Sam Fiorani says the pain has only just begun in the sector and that the industry broadly is looking for stability.
We're expecting more damage in the second half of this year. We saw numbers come in well below what we expected in the first half. And so moving forward, it's just going to snowball. We're going to have bigger problems moving parts, moving vehicles, moving people across the borders. And Canada and Michigan especially work very closely together. They just expect to be able to move a part back and forth across the river and build a vehicle on either side. Suppliers and manufacturers are all having an issue with this trade war.
Now, when it comes to a potential position shift from the president, Fiorani says politics may make that difficult, with Trump, of course, a Republican, unlikely to cooperate with a Democratic governor. And so it remains to be seen if the concerns from both political and industry leaders in the state will actually move the needle at all, Steph.
Okay, we will be.
Interesting to see if the auto industry collapses over in America as well. I mean, that's what it looks like here in Michigan. Now they're going to be moving back to USA for sure. Nobody wants to do business in deficit. Stellantis will move operations to Detroit. Moving ahead, we've got Trump tariffs are poison to Canada-US relationship, says Republican congressman. So this guy is the Republican congressman for Nebraska. This is interesting because he says Canada's relationship with America has been great. It's been working totally fine.
As someone who watches this very closely, is there anything, if you were to give the Canadian government advice on how to be dealing with Donald Trump and trying to navigate this tariff war, what advice would you give to the Canadian side in this moment?
Well, far be it for me to advise our Canadian friends on this. I feel better advising my own side. I think we should try to renew USMCA and make it even better. There's a few seams in there that we could fill in, and that would be where my focus area would be at. I think it should be a win-win relationship. It should be a fair relationship. It has been. And I think it would be fair to point out to our side that there's been a slight advantage, yes, in exports for Canada, but America has had an advantage in services, and in tourism, it's about the same. So
this guy just said it's been pretty fair, and America's had a slight advantage in the goods. He's going to go on to talk about defense here soon. This is very different than what you get from Donald Trump.
Been a equitable, fair relationship. I do think the one area that our White House brings up that would be something worth to consider on the Canadian side is defense spending. America spends 2.9% of our GDP on defense now. It's going to go up to 4% this year. We got to sustain that. And that is an area that we know that America can't shoulder that alone. Russia is clearly a threat, the way they're treating Ukraine. China is becoming equal to ours in the economy and in defense spending, a threat to Taiwan. We have other threats like Iran and terrorism still. So this is going to have to be the free world working together there. So if I could ask our Canadian friends to do anything, would be reflect on what they could do for defense spending. But I think beyond that,
working together is not really on the docket right now. Mark Carney not making a deal. Donald Trump is ignoring Carney. The relationship is completely crumbling between Canada and America. So it's very bizarre that CBC brought this guy on, and this is his opinion, which differs very much from Donald Trump, despite him being a Republican.
We've had a very equitable, fair, and a friendly relationship that we want to protect and build on.
So Canadians don't feel like it's been very friendly with the whole 51st state thing. That is what pissed off Canadians. Once again, bizarre interview.
The change in government, Prime Minister Mark Carney has tried to, at least in terms of the announcements that he's made and some of what we've heard about what's been going on with trade talks, there have been increased commitments to meet NATO spending goals. But again, Canada has to actually follow through and get there and then present it to the White House to say, hey, this concern that it's not just the Trump administration that's had this concern. This has been a concern about Canada's military spending way back. So this is not necessarily a new concern, but in this moment, it appears that the government is trying to address the concerns from the Trump White House. But you mentioned Russia there. I know that you have been critical of, in some cases, of how the United States has responded in terms of how the Trump administration has responded in terms of what's going on with the war in Ukraine. Before you go, I'm curious to ask you what you think of Donald Trump's meeting in Alaska on Friday and what your concerns are and what you're hoping comes out of it.
Well, we have some concerns because the president's been unpredictable when it comes to Russia. He's been very good with Iran. I think he's been good with China. But for some reason with Russia, he's hit and miss. I don't understand why, because it's clear to me, it's clear to 80% of the people out there that Putin's a bad guy. He's killed his adversaries. Russia's changed their borders 9 times using force since 1991. And the invasion of Ukraine is the worst, but it's the latest. They're not going to stop unless the free world stands up to Putin and stops this. And it's in our national security interest that Ukraine prevails, because if Ukraine goes down, you got Moldova, you got Azerbaijan, Georgia, maybe the Baltics. You got to stop the schoolyard bully in the process, because otherwise they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, I don't know if schoolyard bullying is the way to describe what's going on there, but what needs to happen is Ukraine needs an election. They need a real leader who's not corrupt, and then they can figure things out. Next up, this is the state of Canada. This story sums it up. We've got ministry shuts down Barrie encampment after residential waste, human brown stuff pose concerns.
Almost 2 weeks after police began their investigation inside this Barrie encampment off Ann Street, the people who called the wooded area home were allowed to slowly bring some of their personal belongings out today. Megan Morrow says she's lived in the encampment for the past 3 years.
We just want to get our stuff out peacefully. We just want, everyone to be on the same page. We want a place that we maybe can go for a bit until we get our feet on the ground.
Barrie police will not say what they were looking for or what brought them to the site over the past week and a half. Still, more questions than answers. What we know is 52-year-old Robert Ladouceur faces a slew of weapons-related charges amongst 19 total counts. There is also an investigation site in Huntsville that is cordoned off with the help of the OPP. And with the site fenced off, a massive cleanup will be undertaken.
The environmental issues that exist are real. They are of great magnitude, and certainly we need to make sure we're protecting our waterways, protecting our wellheads here in the city of Barrie.
The city says the environmental concerns center around waste on the site that includes steel drums with unknown contents, gasoline and propane tanks, also pipes conveying human sewage to the creek on the property, even residential waste.
The concerns.
Yuck. So they had some pipes going to the local creek, dropping hot Carls right into that creek. Imagine going for a jog down creek. It's a hot day. You're going for a long run. You decide to splash some water on your face. And all you're left with is a mud mask.
Around feces being close to obviously water that's draining down into Lake Simcoe. This is not a good thing. It's a really bad thing.
The city and county say they are working with community partners to help those affected by the cleanup to find safe indoor options. For now, the area is off limits until it's deemed safe once again. People on site today removing what they can while they can. Pete Hagan is helping some friends get their stuff out. How much stuff is in there, Pete?
Oh my gosh, they got 5-10 truckloads of good stuff, and it's stuff that they can't afford to lose.
The city continues to work with the county and other community partners to help those affected by the encampment's closure. A temporary evacuation center has been set up at the former police station in Barrie, and I'm told the fences here at the encampment will remain up until further notice. Rob Cooper,
This is just Trudeau's legacy right here. This is a Trudeau town that was poisoning the water, and now it's being shut down because it's an environmental hazard. Trudeau's legacy. This is what he's known for. And what did Liberal supporters do? They voted this in again. Meanwhile, immigrants are in hotels. Please slow down immigration so lifelong citizens in Canada can get situated. They don't care. This is part of the plan. They're trying to replace us. One other thing I wanted to point out is this. So this massive fire just sprung up in the last 8 hours. It went from 100 hectares to 650 hectares. This is raging out of control as we speak. This is only 12 kilometers from where I live. I actually live right on the other side of this mountain range here. So if there's a disruption in service, it's probably because I'm fleeing for my life as this thing burns across the valley. And I've mentioned this multiple times. I've mentioned this for years. The way that the logging is done around here by Mosaic, by Brookfield, is out of control. They do these huge logging cuts like you can see here, all in the foreground here, and they don't leave many trees in between, and it leaves these big dry patches, and if a fire were to take off like this, it will spread very quickly. Since it's like this all the way through the valley, if the wind is right, this will blow right into town and burn the whole town down. So I will be preparing to be fleeing tomorrow. Let's hope we get some rain.